Hey, there we are, guys. Good to see you. Shabbat shalom to everybody out there up in the chat. Good to see Shakira Ladros. So today, talking about you're not behind in life, even though you may think that you are, right? So many times, no matter what age you are, you think, man, if I could just be a little bit further along than where I am. It seems like everyone else is out there crushing it, but just not me. Has anybody ever felt like that? We got a resounding yes. In fact, 91%, and so in the room, a woman was the first one to say yes. 91% of women ages 16 to 24, which puts you into that category, of course, say they feel unsatisfied with their own lives after looking at other people's lives on social media. 91%. And I wish I had some volume up in here. Don't you love electronics? Seems like 91% of electronics fail around here when you wish they were ahead of things, but they're behind. And before men check out of what we're talking about, the number for young men is not far behind that. And it's not even just young people. It doesn't matter if you're 22 or 45. We've all done it. We've looked at someone else and we felt like that they are further along than us, and that feeling in your chest. It just sucks, right? The feeling I should just be further along than this. You know, last week, I wonder if I can go to it on here. Let's see if I can do this. Bump. I read a comment that made me think of all of this. See if I'm able to find it with all the things that we got going. How do I sign in to a different account? I don't know if I know how to do that. And see if I can bring this up. I'm going to tell you today, right here. I worry, this is a comment that we had, and I want to read this. I worry about being behind in life. He says, I feel like I'm last and behind in certain areas where I could have been way further ahead if I just stayed consistent. That really hits home. Listen to the elders' instructions and didn't waste time. I feel like by the time I'm competent enough, I'll be old or it'll be too late, because the years where I could have been at the peak of my career, I was just getting started. I know it's a false narrative and that there may be many examples of people whose careers skyrocketed at an old age, but still one of my worries that weighs on me down sometimes. And you are 100% not alone. And that's this morning, right? We're going to go through this because I think that that feeling is lying to you. It doesn't mean that the feeling isn't real, but I think that the feeling is lying. And I want to show you why. See, the comparison that is making many of us feel like it's too late is being made against the standard God never set for you. And the oldest wisdom book ever written has been trying to tell you for thousands of years this very thing. And that's why I love going to this, because we are in the mirror today where we take real problems that real people have and we go to the oldest book of wisdom ever written in order to get the answer. That's what we're doing. We ready? Well, let's get into it. So the feeling of being behind has a source, and that source is not found in reality. What do you think the source is found in when you feel behind? Why do you think you get that feeling? Where do you think it comes from? It's the thief of joy. Comparison. Comparison. Comparison can either drive you to want to be even better, like wow, and it could create inspiration, or it creates depression, the feeling of not enoughness. You see it even more so today because of social media, whereas before you didn't really see all of that. You might be in your local area and be the football superstar, the basketball superstar, the best singer. Everybody's like, yeah, that person, that guy, that gal, wow, she's the star. And then when they go out to the big wide world, they find out that they're just a drop in the bucket compared to what they thought that they were. And that can be kind of shocking for a lot of people. Has anybody ever done any sort of physical feat and then look out there online and see someone else is completely crushing it in that area and you're like humbled? Like, wow, I cannot believe how much further along they are than me. We do that a lot of times when it comes to our ages. We look out online and then that's what makes us feel like, man, we're just a loser. When you look at what other people have done with their lives and where they're at, and when things are really glamorized or whatever you know, they just put up there on a big spotlight, like someone else's life, like this is where you should be or what you should be. And then you think, geez, I guess I'm just not enough. See, comparison has never been more weaponized than it is right now. In fact, 40% of Gen Z says that they're out there feeling stressed and anxious most or all of the time. Researchers, when they come up with this statistic, are pointing directly at social media comparison as the primary driver of this. Has anybody out there with kids or with spouses ever had this weird thing happen where they seem like they're in a good mood and everything's going great, and the next second they come in the room or you walk in the room and you go to talk to them and they're super crabby? And you're like, hey, what happened? And like nothing. And they're looking at their phone, typing 100 miles an hour. Oh, we get that all the time. And in fact, I just saw an article that came up about 2 weeks ago where a girl around 12 years old committed suicide. They found her dead in her bedroom. The mom was in complete disbelief. She said that her daughter was happy as far as she knew, well regulated. Everything was fine. She put her into her room to go to bed. She normally goes in to go to bed and takes her cell phone with her. And when they were checking to see what happened, looking around for evidence of trying to solve the puzzle, they got onto her phone and unlocked it. And the last thing she was on was social media, where she was being bullied by school peers on social media, and took her own life. They find that with especially the younger generation, that when they're in their bedrooms alone at night with their phones, they're isolated from everyone because other people in the house are asleep. And that's when they can spiral into these realms of depression and get sucked in to the social media universe. What about adults? 73% of young adults say that social media negatively affects their mental health. That's 3 out of 4 people that are on their phone every day consuming content that says it makes them feel worse rather than better about either the world or their own life. And then you would say, well, why do you get on it? Why do you continue to consume it? Why do people continue to smoke or to do other things, to drink or, whatever that could be harmful to their lives? You just think, well, it's not going to affect me. I mean, is anybody with me on something like that? Like, does anybody ever get on social media and find stuff that it just ticks them off? It triggers you. And then it makes you want to comment on that or get kind of upset because something you see that's not even affecting your own life. That's the news, right? Negative news travels way bigger than positive news. And so we're seeing that even more in social media. And then you wonder, why are you watching all of that? Like, if you can't even manage your own life, you think you're going to manage the world affairs and you need to know everything that is going on. And here's the mechanism. When you look at social media and you see what people are putting out there, do you ever want to post when your kids are fighting and angry? Like, show me pissed off, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Do you ever do a countdown to take a photo and say, hey, could you scream at that person? Could you yell at that person? Maybe just right when you get out of bed in the morning, hey, I'm going to put a glamour shot up. No, you usually get ready. You want everyone to smile. You want to show your best moments, right? I mean, do you ever want to put on there when you're working out? And you got a day that you're just not feeling it? And you can't lift jack? No, you want to put on there and put the biggest lift that you've done in your life. That's what you want everyone to see. So social media shows everybody the highlight reel, doesn't it? And it's simultaneously. You get it from every single post. The highlight reel. Look how happy their kids are. Look how fun their parents look like. Look how nice that girlfriend treats her boyfriend, or the opposite. So you're comparing your behind the scenes moments in your life to other people's highlight reels. Why do we do that? When you see how good things are going for someone else, you don't compare it usually to your best moment. You compare it to your worst moment. And that's not even a fair fight. And the way that social media is engineered, it was never designed to be a fair fight, was it? Let's go to the Bible and see what it has to say. And it talks to this thousands of years before there was any social media whatsoever. This was still a problem. Galatians, Paul is talking to the church in Galatia, the Christians there, and he says, but let each one test his own work. And then his reason to boast will be in himself alone and not in his neighbor. Let each one do self-comparison. When you're working and striving at getting better, compare it to where you were yesterday, last week, last year. Don't compare it to where someone else would be, because Paul wrote this thousands of years before Instagram was ever even a thought in someone's mind. Because comparison has always been the thing that steals joy. It has always been the thing to take the wind out of your sails. It has always been the thing to steal your sense of purpose. And the feeling of being behind is almost never based on your actual progress, like you think it would be. When you look, and what's crazy is the way that social media works. You may look at something that morning, have a thought later that evening, and think that thought originated with you, and it didn't. It was something from a seed that was planted earlier in the day when you saw someone else doing something, and it gave you a sense of not enoughness, but you didn't even occur to you till later in the day. And then something happened, you're working on something or doing something, and you feel this depression creep in, and you're like, God, I'm just not doing enough. I'm not enough. I'm failing at life. I'm miserable, and you don't even know where it came from, that it was based on someone else's perceived, can we all say perceived? Perceived progress. Not even their real progress, because people don't want to boast about their failures, only their successes. And if they got to make it up, then that's what they're going to do. Wild, man. 73% of young adults saying that social media negatively affects their mental health, but they do what? They keep on scrolling. They know it's poison, and they drink the cup anyway. And that is sad because it's not based on what God had for you. Because the enemy of God's timeline is someone else's highlight reel. Think about that. Because here's where the Bible does something remarkable. It's full of people who looked completely behind by every human measure possible. And God used every single one of them at exactly the right time. Let's look at Moses. Y'all familiar with him? Did Moses build the ark? Now he led the people out of Egypt, right? He was 40 years in the palace. Then Moses took off and he was 40 years in the desert. 40 plus 40 is 80. And Moses was 80 years old when God showed up with the burning bush and said, now I got a job for you to do. I need you to go lead my people. By every human measure, Moses was done. He was washed up. No, they lived a lot longer back then. Dude, you think you're washed up at 35 years old, 19 years old, some 16. Life's over. What's the point? Moses is a fugitive shepherd out in the middle of nowhere, working for his father-in-law. And God said, Moses, I've been preparing you for 80 years. For a specific job, a specific task. And Moses said, I'm not the guy for the job. I don't even know how to speak. I'm going to let you down, Yahweh. I can't do it. You need to find somebody else. And Yahweh says, Moses, you're ready. Get out there and do it. I'm going to send you in your brother Aaron. He's going to have your back and support you until you fully go out on your own. But you are moving one way or another. And is that the only one that we've got? We have Abraham. What about him? God promised Abraham a son at 75 years old. And yeah, they lived a lot longer. That was still considered super old to have a kid, right? Both Sarah and Abraham, they were both old. And they said, this is impossible. But he had to wait 75 years for the promise to even be made. And do you know how old he was when Isaac was born? Does anybody in the chat know how old he was when Isaac was born? We have over 100. 100 years old. Get this. Most of you, a lot of you may feel behind today. You may feel like you've missed it. You may feel like there's still an opportunity, but I don't know if it's even possible. And now I have paralysis in my life because I've made so many mistakes. I'm really concerned about the next move because I don't got a lot of years to keep making mistakes. Who think? You know, if I invest in this other career or this other move or this other relationship, if I go into this and it doesn't work out, I mean, this could be in marriage, this could be in a job, it could be whatever. If I go in with this relationship with this person, or if I go to work over here and it doesn't work out, that could be another decade, another 15 years out of my life. It would surely be over then, so you never do anything. God shows up in a miraculous intervention in Abraham's life, 75 years old, and audibly, miraculously, supernaturally conveys a promise to Isaac or to Abraham. It's not like Abraham just had a subtle dream and he's like, do you think that was real? Do you think that could have been something, Sarah? No, this was stop in your tracks. Supernatural experience. And it took 25 years to manifest. Who's given up after year 10? Who's given up after year 20? And if you don't give up, personally, how many people would you lose faith in if they said, this is going to happen? And you're like, brother, you've been saying that for the last 2 darn decades. Ain't nothing going to happen. And everyone laugh at you. 25. This business is surely going to take off. Brother, you've been saying that for the last decade. My family's life surely going to turn around. Dude, you've been saying that for years. Ain't nothing getting better. So was Abraham behind? By whose clock was Abraham behind? Are you behind? By whose clock are you behind? What about a brother named Caleb? In Numbers 14, you go to your Bible, Caleb is one of 12 spies, right? That was sent out to spy out the promised land. Him and Joshua being the ones that stood strong. And they go and they spied out the land of Canaan, and he's ready to take the land. But Israel refuses, right? They're scared. They don't want to do it. Oh, this is too much. And so they end up wandering for 40 years out there in the desert. 40 freaking, can we all say freaking? Freaking years in the desert. Do you know what this gets me about me when I read the Bible? That I believe it's real, but then do I really? Because when I read about stuff like this, it just kind of like, you just kind of skip over it. Like, okay, we heard it a lot. We know they wandered for 40 years. But then in your life, you're panicking, freaking out. I'm behind. Things aren't going like they should. I'm only getting older. I'm not anywhere where I should be when I was a young man or a young woman. This is not the life that I thought I was going to have. I thought it was going to be so much more, blah, 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 blah. They're wandering 40 years in the hot, stinking desert, waiting for something that was already promised by God to be given to them. The land of milk and honey, already there. Good gravy. And it's not even because Caleb did anything wrong, right? Because he had Caleb and Joshua. They stood strong. It was because of the others. But they're still wandering. Then we turn in our Bibles and you keep on reading and you get to the book of Joshua. Chapter 14. Guess how old Caleb is? 65? 75? 85 freaking years old. Okay. God makes a promise to you at age 45. I'm age 48. God comes and makes this promise to me. Eric, I'm going to open a land of milk and honey to you. You're going to have blessings upon blessings. You'll have houses you didn't build to live in, vineyards you didn't have to plant. It's just going to come piling in. And I'm wandering a life that feels like the hot, stinking desert for 40 years. Now I'm 40 or right here, 88 years old. In my life, right? You're going to be feeling pretty depressed. You might think, why didn't I get it sooner? What am I going to do with it at this age? But what does Caleb say at 85 years old? He walks up to Joshua and he says this, give me this mountain. That's cool. Then he goes on to say, because I am still as strong as the day Moses sent me out. Caleb, 85 years old, and the brother's still taking on mountains. I've met a few people like that. There's a guy 80 plus, like 83 years old. His name was Mr. Fish. He was the superintendent at the high school I went to out in Arizona. And the guy used to slide down a railing of about 12 steps every day from school. He would slide down it and run off. Like, dang, dude, we'd always go, wow. We would be out driving like at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, you know, when it's scary to be walking out on the side of the road because you get ran over by a car. We'd be like, dude, that's Mr. Fish. 10 o'clock at night, 80 some years old, jogging. Mr. Fish still took on mountains. So when we look at these three biblical figures, none of the men were behind. They were being prepared. Prepared. The time they spent waiting was not time wasted. It was formation time. God was building something in them that could only be built through the waiting. We've talked about this before, but if you don't change who you are in your mindset to be better, to be greater, God can't trust you with anything better or greater. You must be built from the inside out. And many business professionals out there, they're doing podcasts and talking, and they don't even bring the biblical concept into it. And they're like, man, I was sitting there, failure after failure, failure after failure. And I thought, why can I not get ahead? Why can I not succeed? All these other people are doing it, but not me. And then they realized once they finally cracked it, because they never gave up, that they were being formed and prepared in every single area, that when they were able to form the company, they were the type of man or woman that would be able to operate that company. And that is how come people who win the lottery lose it in record time. Usually under 5 years. Because they're still the broke, irresponsible person on the inside. That hasn't changed. And that's how come you can strip all the money away from successful people and they will go out and achieve it again. And you can be like, look, I don't care all that much about money. Well, you can look at it in any area of your life, including even the relationships that you have with your children, with your spouses. God was building something in them that could only be built in the waiting. So when you feel like years you spent inconsistent, years you spent distracted, years you spent going the wrong direction, that they were wasted, what if they weren't? What if you were just being formed? What if you're not behind? What if you're being prepared? What if? Let's go back over here to the Bible. I want to take you to Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. The Most High says, for I know the plans I have for you. Is God any respecter of persons when you read the Bible? Is anybody above anyone else? Does God show favoritism? Yes or no? No, he doesn't. We're all equal in the eyes of God. There's no male, there's no female, there's no Jew, there's no Gentile, there's no free, then there's no slave. We're all one in the eyes of the Most High. He says to Jeremiah, the prophet, Jeremiah, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a, can we all say it? Future and hope. See, most people know that verse right here. They've heard it. For I have known you before I have formed you. But what's the context? Who is the audience? The Most High is speaking to Israel here through the prophet while they are in Babylon, in exile. It looked like what the most behind moment of the nation's entire biblical history. And it goes on to say, then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will hear you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. This is why they're captives in a foreign country. No temple, no king, no home. And God says, chill. I know the plans. Isn't that awesome? You just sit right here. Declares Yahweh, plans for welfare or peace. I've already got them in action. God didn't say, Israel, I knew the plans. You messed them up, but that's okay. We can fix this. God doesn't say right here, you're so far behind, I had to come up with a new plan. We don't read that, right? God says, I know the plans, present tense, active, still in motion, for I know the plans. Maybe what you should stop doing is measuring your chapter 3 against somebody else's chapter 20 in the book of life. Because you don't know what they've done or where they've been to get where they are. And you expect to be there already. You don't even know how long their book is or what it cost them to get there. It's amazing how many people work and work and work to achieve. And when they did, everyone else that looks around says they got it so easy. They're an overnight success. No, they weren't there when that book was being written. I challenge you to go out this week, today. Don't forget about this when this is over. This isn't supposed to be inspirational. This is supposed to be a reframing moment, where you reframe your life, when you start to audit what you call wasted time, that season of failure, that bad relationship, that wrong career, that wrong decision or choice. What did that build in you that you needed? Believe it or not, Moses, he needed that desert. You might need yours. Pick one thing this week that you've been putting off because you think it's too late, or because you think that you're just not enough. It's not for you. It's not too late. Caleb was 85 years old when he said, you know what? Give me the mountain. I still got it. Woo! What's your excuse? What is your excuse? It's too late by whose clock? See, the feeling of being behind, it's a real feeling. No one's trying to diminish that it's real to you. It's just that the timeline you're measuring yourself against isn't real. That you've made up in your head. You build it from what? We talked about social media posts. You build it from highlight reels. You build it from other people's best moments compared to your worst moments. Is that a fair measurement? Yes or no? Yes or no? It's not. It's not. I don't think it is. That was never supposed to be your benchmark. God's timeline for your life was set before you took your first breath. For I know the plans I have for you, declares Yahweh. Plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you future, to give you hope. This plan has not been thrown off by anything that you've done wrong. It's not been thrown off by your detours. It's not been thrown off by your failures. It's not been thrown off by your wasted years or your slow starts or your false starts. Moses was 80 years old. Abraham was 100 years old. Caleb was 85 years old. And they all did the thing that they were made to do right on time. So the question then today isn't whether you're behind. The question is whether you are still moving. Just get back up. Just keep walking. Just keep moving, because you can't be behind in a race that only you are running. So as long as you keep crawling, long as you keep moving, you're winning. Because you're not competing against anybody else. There's no competition. Can everyone say that out loud? There's no competition. None. Because you're the only one that's running. And you are uniquely you, created for a very unique purpose. It's all part of God's design. So the final mirror that I have for you today, I want you to really consider, guys, as we're here talking to each other. What would you start today if you genuinely believed that it wasn't too late? Father, I thank you for this moment to be able to just consider your ways, that they're above ours, that we are always on time when we are operating underneath your principles, that we're always winning when we're moving, and that every breath in our body is a gift from you. Let us not waste it. And then through the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. Well, bless you guys. I will see you next week. Same time, same place. Consider, what would you do if you genuinely knew that you were right on time and that you could not fail? Go get some.